What is going on?
Hey, everybody.
Facebook, YouTube, and our Turnaround Marriage community. This is Scott and Rachel coming to you live. And what we want to talk to you about today is when your support system fails you. I know for so many of you that reach out to us, your spouse has said, I don't know if I still want to be married to you anymore. I feel like I'm done. I love you, but I'm not in love with you. I think I want to get a divorce. I want to get separated. And when your marriage comes to that point of crisis, so often your support system is failing you. We see this over and over again where well-meaning pastors or your parents or your best friend or your sister will say, well, just give up. Well, it's no big deal. Just go to divorce care. No big deal. Just go ahead and get your lawyer. And here's the thing. It is so easy to get divorced nowadays. And the ramifications and the pain and the ripple effect that has on you goes for years and years and years. It's not a simple, easy decision. And why are they failing you? Why? We want to talk to you about that today. And we want to talk to you about what you can do differently.
Absolutely. And just a case in point, I was speaking to a gentleman yesterday, and he told me on the phone that everybody he should be counting on, his parents and siblings and friends, were saying, oh, your wife, she decided to leave, to move out for a season, like, oh, you should just go ahead and give up. And then he turns to the pastor that marries them, and he's like, well, yeah, I don't know what to say. Well, here's a divorce care place you can go talk to. Like, what? We've gotten to the place where the Christian advice, a lot of times, the Christian advice is give up. When you took a vow before God and your family and friends, and oh, by the way, to your spouse too, that you're going to be faithful, you're going to love and protect and be there for one another. That when things get hard, even then, in sickness and in health, you're not going to give up. And then when things get rough, everybody around you, including the people that are supposedly in the church, are telling you to give up too. We hear this story over and over and over again. Sometimes it's hard actually not to get a little bit cynical. We know that the true church, those that are following the way, the truth, and the life, and his word are not going to be leading people down this path. But you're right. You hit the nail on the head of the nail, hammer on the head of the nail. And that is that so often it's just so accepted that marriages fail, and I've given up, my uncle gave up, my sister gave up, you might as well too give up. And it's like they don't necessarily mean to hurt you. They don't mean to fail you. It's just that everybody else is going down that road. They're being conformed to the pattern of this world. Yeah. And the Bible tells us, do not be conformed to the pattern of this world. And how sad is it that we are in that place in America where everybody is just on the slippery slope and nothing you can do about it. Just give up. And my friends, oh my goodness, so many people we have been able to walk with that didn't give up.
Yes.
And so often have been able to partner with the Lord, clear things out of the way, step to the plate with a real strategy that really has been able to make things to be very different. Yes. And how thankful are they, even when it didn't work out, that they didn't give up.
That's right. That's right. Because the easy and honestly, the cowardly thing to do is to just throw in the towel right away. Say, well, she wants a divorce. There's nothing I can do. I've already hoped and prayed. There's nothing else I can do. And it's easy to get in that very disempowered state. But what the church needs more than ever today and every day is not cowardice. It's courage. We have to have the courage to stand for our vows. We have to have the courage to look our spouse in the eye and say, you know what? I know I failed you. I want to do better. I want to work on this. And even if your spouse says, I'm not ready for that, I'm done with you, I'm not sure about that, for you to say, well, I'm going to fight for us. What we have seen again and again for people who have done that courageous thing and really decided to partner with God and really decided to understand what to do and be courageous enough to do it. So often marriages are saved. So often something new can grow, but you will never know if and when that will happen, if you just throw in the towel and listen to your pastor, if that's what he's saying, just go ahead and go to divorce care. Go ahead and just give up. And I know you don't know what to do. I know it. I know you're scared to death because you've tried the talk therapy, right? You've talked your problems to death and you're so sick of it. I know you deep down just want peace. You just want your spouse to look at you again and have a compassionate and understanding gaze again. I get it. I do. And so what needs to happen is you've got to have a whole new way to do marriage, a whole new way to deal with your heart, your mind, the way you think about marriage, the way you think about yourself, the way you think about your spouse. And you need to have support and accountability in order to do that.
Right.
But here's the thing, you have to stand in courage and say, I'm willing to fight. I'm willing to get rejected, and I'm willing to put myself out there and try, because everything is at stake. Because the reality is, as you said, Scott, you made your vows to God first.
Yep.
And then to your spouse. So just because your spouse is saying, I don't know what I want anymore, I'm not sure, I'm done, I'm this, I'm that, that does not mean it's time for you to give up. That is now time more than ever to step into the battle and get your armor on and get yourself some support around you, because it's not easy. We get it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I want to speak to the men specifically. Men, you know that the Bible has called you to love your wife as Christ has loved the church. And if you think for just a millisecond about how God has loved the church through his son, Jesus, and the way that Jesus has pursued you with your love, when you were a wayward son, when you went down the paths of sowing wild oats, of you going on the path of turning your back on God, you know that he is the good shepherd who goes after even the one that's lost. And when your wife has lost the way, you know in your heart of hearts that despite what everybody else is saying, that God has called you not to give up. He's called you to be Jesus to your wife when she's lost the way too. And ladies, it's the same thing with you too. When you recognize a spiritual sickness in your husband, maybe he's stuck in depression or he's overwhelmed. And a lot of times when a marriage is really struggling, he tends to really feel like a failure. He tends to push his wife away, tends to push God away, and he loses his way. And ladies, there's a way to reconnect with him too, not to just give up. You know, we want to partner with the Lord, and we also want to heed his word, that when things are the hardest, that's when the vow really matters. And we live in a culture where the vow doesn't matter. We throw it away like everything else. We throw away the marriage. We throw away the commitment. We essentially throw away the family. And then we wonder why the kids are crazy. We need the family. It's the way that God has designed it. And even in the worst case scenario, even if you wound up being divorced, you want to be able to always hold your head high before your kids, before your wife, because you're going to see her again and again, before your husband, because you're going to have those birthdays and graduations and celebrations for your kids and grandkids for years to come. You're going to walk your daughter down the aisle one day. You want to be able to look her in the eye and know that you showed up as a man. And when things got hard, you didn't go turn tail and run. You partnered with the Lord, and maybe you needed some outside help. We'll talk about that in a minute. Maybe you needed the support. Maybe you needed that strategy, but you didn't give up. You pursued it. And it was worth fighting for. Of course Amen. It was. A little Amen. Passionate here.
Yes. Let's talk about that beautiful song from, what's his name? Peterson.
Andrew Peterson.
Andrew Peterson. Okay. How many of you guys know this song called Dancing in the Minefields?
Walking in Minefields. Walking in Minefields.
Well, Walking in the Minefields. Okay. So it says, so when I lose my way, find me. When I lose love's chains, bind me. At the end of all my faith, till the end of all my days, when I forget my name, remind me. And that song has held us in our darkest moments. And such a beautiful song about dancing in the minefields. And it's like sometimes you step somewhere and life can feel like it explodes and your marriage can feel like it's on the rocks. We have been there. We know exactly what that feels like. But if you forget, or if your spouse has forgotten who they are, remind them who they are in Christ. Remind them who they are as a son or daughter of the High King. You need to remind yourself who you are. You are someone who stands in courage. You are someone who stands for your vows, even if your spouse has broken their side of things, right? Because the courageous thing is to fight for it. The courageous thing is not to just give up at the first sign of difficulty, right, or hardship. Because let's face it, Jesus promised us, in this world you will have trouble. But take heart, he says, I have overcome the world. So I love that song, and I love what it's meant to us personally. And I want to encourage you. We'll probably put the link below to the song.
Yes, we can. And that'd be a great idea. And one thing I want to just point out is so often people will say what sounds right. It sounds good. It sounds like the path. And they'll say, well, give it to the Lord. Give your marriage to the Lord. Give your husband to the Lord and pray. Now, we absolutely believe in prayer. It's one of the first things we actually talk about in our program when people enroll. We absolutely believe in it. But prayer and just sitting there and waiting is not a strategy, and I don't think it's God honoring either. We're not intended in this life. You can read the scriptures we're not intended in this life to do the Christian thing between me and Jesus and nobody else is involved. A lot of times we need other people to help us. Sometimes we need actually expertise and a strategy and people that understand and know how to help specifically with your problem, to walk alongside you and to say, I'm just going to give it to the Lord. What happens if it isn't solved? What happens if you don't change? What happens if your marriage just goes out the window and you didn't do anything other than just sit around and pray? Then we sit around and then blame God and wonder, where were you, God? And you're blaming him because you actually didn't take action. All you did was say, well, I'm praying and giving it to the Lord. But what did you do? Like if you were the God's people at the Red Sea and the Red Sea is parted, well, I'm just going to pray that the Lord is going to give me transportation across the water that he split apart for us to cross. Like the miracle has already happened. Like a lot of times, people get passionate about this too. Like if the waters are parted, it's not time to pray. It's time to act. And if you found someone where you're stuck and you need that strategy, you need support, we'll talk about that. It's time to take the hand. It's time to walk across what was once that water place and go across. It's not time to sit and wonder, what should I do? Twiddle my thumbs and start praying longer. Exactly. How often do people do that too? And it is not God honoring to sit on your rear end when your marriage is in trouble. It's not. No. And we see it all the time. No,
because what goes hand in hand with trusting God and giving the marriage to him and praying earnestly is partnering with him in new obedience.
Right.
Walking in new obedience according to the Spirit and according to the Word and how he designed marriage to be. Right. Yes. If we don't walk in that new obedience as a son or daughter, and we just pray and pray and pray, most likely what we're praying for is change my spouse, God. Just change their heart. When there's so much stuff and sin that needs to come out in us, right? And so our plea to you today is, if your spouse has said, I'm not sure what I want, it might be over, I'm done with you, I want a divorce, whatever. Now is the time to step up in courage and walk in new obedience. Now is the time to take somebody's hand and get the help that you need. Now is not the time to rely on the support system that is probably telling you, just go ahead and give up.
Exactly.
Because listen, they're saying that because they don't know what else to tell you to do.
Right.
You need a step-by-step strategy. You need support. You need accountability, and you need someone to walk with you and mentor you and coach you to your blind spots, because probably you don't even know what you don't know. A lot of you we've talked to, and you don't even know what's wrong. You don't even know what else you can do. It's because you're carrying around so much anger and resentment and bitterness toward your spouse. You can't even see it because that colors everything that's going on. We've got to clear that stuff out. We've got to be able to walk in new obedience, and we've got to be able to partner with God and be vulnerable and courageous enough to take the next step and fight for it.
Yes.
Right? Because if you don't try, you've already failed. You've already failed. But if you try and you give it your all, as you said, Scott, you can hold your head up. You can know, I have done what I could. I can now live at peace with all men. That's what he's called us to, right? There's certain things we can control and there's a lot we can't, but we can certainly control how we show up. We can certainly control the decisions that we're making, the help we're deciding to get.
And the truth is, I'll just let the cat out of the bag here for a moment. Like, looking back, when I was a pastor, I knew all the answers of what marriage should look like, and I really didn't know how to help people. And that's the truth. Like, I took all the counseling classes, and I remember looking back thinking, oh, these are some interesting ideas, but how do I help people? I don't know. Maybe I'll figure it out along the way. And the truth is, most pastors, they don't have the time. They might have the biblical answers of what marriage should look like, but maybe they don't know how to apply it to your situation. And that's where we were stuck for a lot of times. I was teaching it. I was the pastor, and our own marriage didn't reflect what I knew in my head.
No.
And it was also really through the power of transformational coaching, and then not only us experiencing it, but also us being trained in it, spending tons of hours and plenty of money invested to become transformational coaches, so that people can get that transformation. And so what you guys actually need, and I want you to hear us say this, when your support system has failed you, as Rachel's already hit on, you need somebody in your corner who's going to encourage you, who's also going to speak the truth and can really help you to shift your thinking, to move out of negativity, to actually get healing if there's stuff holding you back, maybe even stuff from your childhood or whatnot, and bring you to the healer. We're not the healer. Jesus is. But a lot of times if he's not healing, it's not because he doesn't heal. It's because you're holding on to stuff and you didn't even see it.
Right.
Maybe foothold of the enemy that is in your heart. And you can, when you have support to help clear that out, it's going to just radically change things. Plus the Lord's healing will come flooding in your heart and mind.
Mhm.
You need biblical, godly wisdom when everyone else is telling you to go the other way. You need someone in your corner that's saying, no, don't give up. Don't give up. It's worth fighting for. Plus, you also need a community of other people too.
100%. So if this resonates with you at all and you've realized your support system has failed you, they're letting you down, but you want to walk in courage and you want to take the next step and contend for your marriage, then we want to encourage you to go ahead and book a free call with us. You can go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. One of us are going to get on the phone with you. We're going to help you get massive clarity about where things went sideways and south in your marriage, but we're not going to just talk about problems. We're going to talk about solutions and a strategy to get there. Okay. And we're going to talk about what it's going to take to shift to be able to bridge that gap. And then if we know we can help, we'll invite you into our program and we're going to dive in 100% with you. If not, we're going to steer you to whoever or whatever will serve you the best. So please go to turnaroundmarriage.com/call. Do not give up on your marriage. Walk in courage, honor your vows, hold your head high, and let's walk in new obedience and partner with God.
Absolutely. And we don't talk a lot about our program too much before we invite people in, but I just want to share just briefly, like we had a group call yesterday and somebody was really down. Their circumstances were very difficult. And there was like a group hug that happened. There were people that were just like, hey, brothers, be encouraged. We're praying for you. Like to have a community, that's when we invite people in, there is a community of people there that are encouraging each other, that actually praying for one another. It means the world. When your other support system has failed you, to have a support system of people that are contending for their marriage and are partnering with God and are part of the turnaround marriage journey with you, it is absolutely amazing. We've had people meet in person. We've had people become prayer partners as a result of walking this journey too. But you need that community. Just because one network has failed you doesn't mean there isn't another one that could be there to encourage you. And it makes a world of difference when you have that in place.
Yes. So turnaroundmarriage.com/call, and let's talk really soon.
Absolutely. God bless you guys.
Bye-bye.